It was awesome, dude. It was
So,
awesome.
hey everybody, and welcome back to Divulgence. I'm very excited today. We got Sean McCann from the Wake the Dead podcast coming back for part 3 of our Stanley Kubrick Eyes Wide Shut breakdown. Sean, how are you today, my friend? What's going on?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me again. And I'm excited to talk about this one more time.
Right on, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
been getting a lot of great feedback. So shout out to everyone who's been listening and watching our videos and getting some comments, a couple private messages, but there's been a lot of public comments, and I've been seeing the views pumping up there in the audio and the
fantastic.
video. So it's good to see you
I
guys are
love the
enjoying it.
comments.
Yeah.
That's
So
great. That's
um
great.
yeah, we're gonna get started. We got part 3 today. So what do you think?
Uh,
What do you think the tricorn hat guy was trying to set up there with this girl, who
the
we've?
tricorn hat was trying to get the girl to bring him down into the circle,
Oh, okay,
so, you know.
okay,
And so now Mandy comes to intervene and say, "No, no, you got to get out of here, dude. You shouldn't be here." She tells him over by the window in the next shot, I think. So here she's telling him that he's in danger, and we have X's in the window.
yeah,
We learned from
triangles.
Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese teaches us that in old films, they would put X's in the window to imply impending death of the character. So this is Kubrick showing us that Mandy will be dying soon. And so this she's warning him and he's like, "Oh, come with me," and all this fantasy that he has, but she's telling him about real danger. So next one. I'm not sure what that is around her neck, but that necklace, but
Yeah, it
might be
almost
it
looks like
might
a
be something.
yeah, it almost looks like a SS or a Nazi
Oh yeah, yeah, like an iron cross. Right,
badge.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So here's
So
Bob.
yes, here we go. Bob Hope. Bob Hope works for them. Bob Hope is in the club. If you read Bryce Taylor, she will teach you that Bob Hope owns women. He keeps them as slaves. These same women that are programmed. Bob Hope does that, and he brings them to the military installations. He uses them to infiltrate and use, like, to
Right.
bring messages to foreign nations and to sleep with other you know dignitaries, and that was depicted in Apocalypse Now when you see
Exactly. I was
the
gonna say we were talking about that with Troy, right? With
right,
Playboy and
right,
the sex
yes,
kittens. That's crazy. Yeah, that's interesting
exactly.
shit, man.
So like they are dissociative victims, just like Alice. There, Coppola was depicting that in Apocalypse Now, and it was cut out, but in the redo we see that,
Exactly.
and it was Uncle Bobo, the guy that was selling him the it was Bill Graham, who owns the Fillmore in San Francisco,
Okay.
where they had the doors, they had it was the place, and he was the guy that rolled out the Grateful Dead on, and the Grateful Dead
Okay.
considers him, they call him Uncle Bobo, and he's like part of that whole scene that is mentioned in, like, Dave McGowan's, Deep Laurel Canyon book that he has there. I forget the name of it exactly.
Weird scenes.
Weird scenes. Yeah, weird scenes inside the canyon. So just having Uncle Bobo there selling those, well, using the Playboy bunnies as trade for, yeah, that's great. You have the book there. Yeah, Dave McGowan is like a very integral piece of understanding the reality.
Yeah.
Everybody
Well,
should read Dave McGowan. Yeah, both of his books. So like that was depicted. Oh, there's the other one, Programmed to Kill. Yeah, very good books. And so the Programmed to Kill are the super soldier ones that are programmed. And this in Eyes Wide Shut are the beta sex kitten ones that are programmed.
exactly,
It's the
man.
same trauma-based mind control phenomenon that they're discovering. So yes, Bob Hope would take these women to the USO shows and then use them as tools as hookers to to do blackmail and that kind of thing.
So
And that was depicted in Apocalypse Now redo.
was it Uncle Bobo is Bob Hope?
No, Uncle Bobo
Right.
is Bill Graham, the guy that owns
Thank you. Okay.
the Fillmore.
Oh,
Yeah, he also owns the Fillmore East in New York, and he also owned Winterland Arena, which is like a big hall that Grateful Dead played there all the time.
okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, and like Jefferson Airplane and all them, you know, all those big bands from San Francisco were playing at the Fillmore. And so like he was part of the San Francisco end of that. There was like San Francisco, then there was Laurel Canyon. And they kind of had a little bit of rivalry. The San Francisco people thought that they were like more pure to the thing and whatever. You got to get into that whole rabbit hole to know what I'm talking about.
There's a
So I don't
lot
know.
there, right? It's a
There.
whole
Yeah,
culture and
right.
subculture and sub
Yes.
communities going on there. So
And it was both culture creation and they were, it's kind of like Memphis and Nashville, the way that like
cool.
they're
Yeah,
creating
yeah.
music and creating culture, but they're connected to each other and only a little bit farther away from each other. It's similar with San Francisco and LA with Laurel Canyon. Because Nashville has Music Row, which is just like Laurel Canyon. It's a bunch of houses on a street where they record everything. The bulk of Elvis's music was recorded at Studio B in Nashville,
Okay.
but he started at Memphis at Sun Records. Yeah, we don't need to get into that. But yeah, the country scene was like the prequel to the Laurel Canyon thing. They created country music first, and then they created the 60s music. And then they bashed the people against each other during the Vietnam, you know, everybody in the streets yelling at each other. Like they had the hard hats would listen to country music and the long hairs would listen to the other stuff, and they would crash this dialectic against each other so that everybody would hate each other instead of the government, which is bombing innocent children and spraying them with the Agent Orange and shit.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
It's like magicians, right? Don't
Right.
look at the left hand so you don't look at what the right hand's fisting.
Right. And they make us hate each other. And, that's they created both dialectics, and both of them were about debauchery and destroying the culture. Like it started in country music with like the Carter family, and then it devolved into like Dolly Parton and like, you know, it's and she would sing about like, oh, he cheated on me again, like nobody loves me, and she gets like bigger tits and like bigger hair and like they still don't love me, and like that whole self-loathing, and and then they like drinking is okay, and like destroying the family in its own way, as free love and that whole 60s scene did the same. It was the same effect basically on the family, and it was created in the same way in these little houses on a street, you know. And that started in Tin Pan Alley in New York. Like, I talked about it a little bit with Mark Devlin. Maybe you can listen to it was a few years ago, but
is this on
anyway.
his show or is this something you've released?
Yeah, on his show, Good Vibrations.
Okay.
I forget
cool.
what number it was. So Bob Hope here leads him into the ritual space, and now he's being confronted. So here we have the confrontation. There is the circle and Red Cloak in the center, and Red Cloak is sitting on a chair, and he has his sentinels on either side.
I never realized how
Right.
prominent the sun is kind of floating overhead there.
Yes, it's like sunlight. They're like when sunlight is shined, there the lie is revealed. In the
dark comes the light. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, like sunlight is like there reveals the truth of things, so that's what they're getting at here. And the death's head mask, or what the
the
not death's
doctor.
head, but okay, man. Yeah. So no, it was the long nose is
Yeah, that's the
for,
doctor.
yeah, the doctor from the plague mask, they
Yeah.
call it. Yeah, they would stuff flowers down in the nose to
Yeah,
like
herbs and
to not
flowers.
have to smell it. Yeah, because the cadavers smell so bad. So anyway, we have tricorn hat here, and he's got his slave woman that, she's behind him
Yeah.
like a good dog, and everybody's masks. We get to see the masks on display, and we roll through to here we go. This mask here makes you think of Freemasonry. It's
Absolutely.
the eye in the triangle, the eye of providence. It represents an awakened consciousness, and Freemasonry uses it heavily. It's even on the back of the dollar bill. Everybody recognizes this. They see it as power and Freemasonry, basically.
And then there's the moon. The moon.
Right. Right. The moon is related to, I mean, it's like goddess. It's a goddess worship cult. We kind of talked about that before. It's a fertility ritual.
Yes,
So
that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
So here we see him sitting on the chair, and we see the chair has a crown above his head, and it's like it's holding the crown above his head. And then we see that the back of the chair, it's wings, as if the one seated has wings. And now we see the back of the chair where he's circling around. The camera is circling around the outside of the circle, and it's going in a Widdershins direction, just like before, counterclockwise. And we see the back of the chair, and you can see that it's two eagles with their heads pointed in opposite directions. And as the camera passes the chair, and then we get a closer up view, um, as the camera, and there's movement with the camera, and we're looking at Bill, and then Bill is occulted by the chair itself. They're making us look at the chair.
Okay.
And as we pass through, we see that it's two eagle heads pointing in two opposite directions. And then going along, we see Bill come through on the other side. It's like an eclipse, you know. And so then we see a side view of the chair in better light and in focus. We see distinctly it is the double eagle with the crown over its head. And every Freemason knows that that symbol is the most recognized symbol of Freemasonry, is from the cover of Morals and Dogma, written by Albert Pike, who was the leader of Scottish Rite Freemasonry in America. Helped to create a lot of the initiation ritual, like was basically the leader of Freemasonry, and
Wow.
gave them the symbols of this. And on the book it says Order Ab Chao, and it has the double eagle. And the eagle represents, in ancient times, the eagle would be like the sun. It goes across the sky, and it sees everything. And so the Roman Empire used the eagle on their staff, and it was a symbol of the power of the state. And they had the double eagle because Rome ruled the whole world, basically, the east and the west, both sides of the Mediterranean, and it sees everything, but it's also like it represents the duality of the pillars and such. But that gets more into the esoteric relations of, but basically it is recognized as the most recognizable symbol of Freemasonry, and it is the symbol of the Knight Kadash degree of Freemasonry, which is a certain rank within the order. I don't know what level. It might be in the 30s, so it's very high. I'd have to look at my notes, but it is representing a certain specific degree of Freemasonry. So this is showing his rank and it's showing the order that does this occult fertility ritual. It is a symbol revealing to the viewers who is doing this and who is in charge. And Masonry goes back to the British crown and the British crown being ruled by the papacy.
Papacy.
Right.
What's
like
that? I've never heard of that. I don't think.
no, the papal, the Roman Catholic Church. So it's
Okay.
a continuation of Rome's power, basically. Like when England broke away from Rome, they started their own church, but then they had this Freemasonry, and they had the Knights of Malta, and they had the Freemasonry was a continuation of the Knights Templar, and the Knights Templar worked
Okay.
for Rome. It's like Rome's, you know, private CIA, whatever. It's like the Jesuits, basically, but older. And so they covertly ruled Britain through in this fashion with Freemasonry. And this Freemasonry, like a rogue Freemasonry, started in America, but it still is infiltrated. It's still part of the rule Britannia of John Dee, basically.
Okay. And John
That's why
Dee
there's
is. Sorry, go
the
ahead.
magician. John Dee's a magician from Elizabeth I. He's
Okay.
the court magician. He created the Goetia, and spoke to non-corporeal demons and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Came up with the idea of rule Britannia and having Britain be the ruling order of the planet through colonialism. And looking at John Dee, it's a deep rabbit hole. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, I hear a
So
lot of talk
anyway,
about him, right? So, okay.
it barely relates to this, so I go on some tangents sometimes. But
No worries.
the chair is telling you this guy is Knight Kadash degree of Freemasonry, and he is the hierophant, basically, of this grotto of Satanists. Yeah.
Okay.
So now that we saw the mask with the eye and the triangle, and then this chair, it's a definite thing. There's no speculation there. Kubrick is pointing the finger at Freemasonry.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Bill is unmasked, and that's at the same moment that the viewer recognizes it's Freemasons that are doing this thing. It's not just some
Yeah.
random fraternal
Interesting.
order. Yeah. His being like removing his mask is taking away his power, or the benefit of anonymity, and so it's putting him at a lower scale of power than the others. And now removing his clothes puts him vulnerable physically to whatever they're going to do to him, and it's just like they're asserting their dominance.
You're right. Yeah.
So
Scary.
here we have Mandy calling out. She yells, "Stop, let him go." And this is just like the story of the anarchist in the political prison, Loristan.
Okay.
And Fidelio was the name of his wife, or the moniker that she took on when she went into the political prison, into the underworld, to save him. So this is calling back to that story. Leonora is the name of the character, who she dresses up like a man and acts like a guard in the prison so that she can sneak in and release her husband, who is bound for, they will kill him because
Okay.
he's going to be discovered
He's
by
destined for death.
exactly. So this is what's happening here. She is Leonore, she is Fidelio, and she's saving him from certain death. So he tells him, "You are free." And then he says that if you ever make any further inquiries, your family will be in danger.
And shout out, I know it's a little late at this point, but shout out to Leon Vitali. Rest in peace.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's who's wearing the mask right there.
That's who's red mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and Leon Vitali is in the clip, in the newspaper clipping,
Yeah.
He's
Name
the fashion mogul or
and
whatever.
his name's on the building in one of the
Right.
street scenes, and he's the guy who gets out of the taxi that Bill tries to get, but the taxi drives off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that one.
He plays quite a few scenes and quite a
Yeah,
few
right.
people in
He's
that
a
movie.
family friend. He's a family friend of the Kubricks, and he was
He's the
Lord
right
Bullington
hand man. Yeah,
in
exactly.
he played Lord Bullington, the older son of Barry Lyndon's wife.
Yeah, yeah. It's all the filmmaker, the film worker documentary is great. It kind of captures a lot of that interesting stuff. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, shout out to him. Rest in peace.
yeah. So now the plague mask is coming to get her. So that is reminiscent of death. It's like a cloaked, like the Reaper, coming to take her to the death realm, and
That's a
she's
powerful
willingly
image
going.
there with that's wild with the
Yes,
blue. You got the
yes.
blue, which comes up all over the movie when we're, in the apartments and
Hmm.
doctor's office and all sorts of different scenes through the windows. And then yeah, it's strong. You just have that silhouette of her being taken to
Yes,
her death
yes.
by the doctor.
And the beak is reminiscent of a bird, and she has the bird feathers. So that kind of calls back to the Nightingale story about Philomela, who has to endure this torture where her hands and her tongue are removed so that she can't tell anybody. And that was depicted in Shakespeare later in Titus Andronicus. So he gets to lock the door and be home safe. His life is saved.
And it's interesting
Uh,
because the other side of the door is blue. So he's
mhm,
closing out that
right,
blue light, that blue, or not blue light, but that blue color again, which
right.
here we see again.
She's bathed in it. And we learn from Room 237 documentary, maybe it's mentioned that in the painting above, which was created by Helena, is the word sex. We see in black the letters SEX spelled out in the painting above,
Yeah.
and we see on her lampshades have jesters, clowns, and it's red and a blue, and that's like Freemasonry colors. You got the blue lodge and the red lodge,
Okay.
and it's like the two
Crips and
halves of,
Bloods,
yeah, basically. And
Republicans,
and we
Democrats.
see there's a teddy bear straddling the post, and it has like what looks like a rainbow on the teddy bear's t-shirt,
Okay.
and that goes along with the rainbow
And then you
fashions,
see that bear
that whole
again
thing.
there, right?
And we see another bear there, yes. So this here, Bill wakes Alice, and as I spoke before about how it's self synchronizing at 1 hour intervals.
Right. Yeah.
If you skip ahead from here 1 hour, Alice is saying, "We're awake now." It's like at the moment that she's being woken up here. It's a see right
Wow.
here. 2 hours, 32, 32. We can go back to the last one. Where were we? So this is like exactly 1 hour intervals. And even the words 1 hour, 32, it's not exactly 30, 32, 30, but it's at the same 1 hour and 32. And I think that that's how I related it. So if you skip around in this movie, you will find instances where that happens. I haven't really made a list of everything that, you know, but it seems to be like every time I look, there is always a direct relation.
That's crazy. Yeah, lots of ciphers and layers, man. It's wild.
Right.
It's wild.
Kubrick set it up like a chessboard.
Yeah. Crazy. So it's funny. I always laugh because she's like laughing in her dream and
Yeah.
sounds like she's having a great time. And Bill comes in and just wakes her up. It's like, it's okay. It's okay, honey.
Yeah.
He's like having a great time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then she
But it
takes
was a nightmare. It was weird.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Like
she
maybe he's used to her giggling when she has nightmares.
before
And that
the
could be a reaction. That could be like trauma-based mind control reaction to trauma. I'm laughing. I'm laughing. It's not trauma. It's not,
yeah,
like your brain is trying to, it's like a shock, like it's going into shock and it's like suppressing that trauma. So it's creating
true.
laughter. I'm laughing. I'm laughing. You see that in the Joker movie, when the dude
Yeah,
has,
yeah,
when the Joker has remembers trauma or is triggered into trauma, he just laughs uncontrollably because it's a way of negating the physical and emotional and spiritual trauma that he had to endure. It's like going into shock. People should learn about trauma. It makes a lot of sense. And when you see her giggle like that, that's just what I think immediately, you know.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, trauma hits deep, and that's the point,
Right.
right?
Right. It's that's what creates our personalities,
Yep.
you know. And it creates the way that we cope with everything and how the wiring of our brains, and that's why the government wants to abuse us as children. Like hospital birth is trauma, circumcision is trauma, public schooling is trauma. Like they're trying to attack our brains while we're still in the vulnerable state
Yeah,
where our
schooling is
crew,
whew,
yeah,
it's
poison.
a minefield
Yeah,
for most people, and
yeah,
the people that
and they
get
keep
out of
people
it
trapped.
are just scarred and branded and
Yeah,
traumatized
statist,
and yeah,
like
and just
pledging allegiance to a
brainwashed,
flag.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
exactly. Yeah, like all
Yeah,
this, most schools pump religion in there, and yeah, it's
yeah. Well, the religion of authority,
yeah,
like belief in
the
authority.
state
Sit down and
the
shut up.
state
Yes,
sanctioned.
yes, master.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
exactly.
I'll go on and on about freedom. I'm an anarchist, so
Yeah, no, I hear
yeah,
you.
I know all about that mind control, man. And the trauma is mind control. It's like if they had to traumatize Alice to make her this way.
Yep.
They can't program her brain any other way. It takes trauma to make the partitions in the dissociative identity of the victim. It's they have to rape the kids to make the kid turn out to be a robot like Alice. It's sick, but whatever. Anyway, let's move
That's
on from here.
that's their game. That's their game.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So now in the daytime, we're going to see Rainbow Fashions, and we see the number 10 here at the front, and he's going through the cage
Through the
again.
cage again, yeah.
And we see the mirror, the rainbow is written backwards. Like this is the realm of Satanism. This is inside the mirror, right?
Interesting.
Right. So we see Milich here, all happy, and Bill is returning his costume. And we see on his head, he has a scar, like he's been beaten into submission. If you could see that on
Oh
his
yeah,
widow's peak, there's like a
absolutely.
lump
It's prominent.
with a
Yeah,
line.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the
So that's
dog that
his
gets
trauma.
beaten around.
Yes, yes. He works for others, right? Yeah. And then moving on from here, we see, oh, fancy that. Gee, she just shows up right when Bill gets there. That's
Right.
interesting. It's almost like a sales pitch, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so she's coming from that room where the dolls are alive. We talked about that
Yep,
before. And
they
it's
are
like
alive.
she's stepping from the night realm of the red light. She shakes his hand, and then those dudes emerge from down below in the red light place, and they're wearing their clothing and they're respectable, walking out into the world. And we see the blank face on the one guy with the red shirt. And they are, saying, "Thank you. We'll call you soon." Like they're happy customers, right?
That's crazy. They've been blackmailed. They've been Epsteined.
Right. Exactly. We exposed all that in the last show. They were locked into that glass room with the
She's
two
the
locks on the
bait.
outside. She is the bait. She's dressed up like a doll. She's a little Barbie. She's got her makeup on. She's got her fucking fake eyelashes. The hooker.
Yeah. Little doll, little hooker doll.
Mm-hmm. And we see him we see his tie is golden snake skin.
Wow, I've never noticed that before. Interesting.
Yeah.
Golden snake.
Yeah, he's a snake, man. And
Interesting.
she's there with the costumes behind her. She's just a dress up doll, like a Barbie.
I have to look into that more. That tie is
Yeah, dude, it's
there.
snake skin. It's totally snake skin. Yeah. And then he says, "You can purchase my daughter, buddy."
Yeah.
This
Need
is the
anything,
pitch.
anything at all.
Right. It needn't be a costume. It can even be this young doll here.
He's just holding it, right? It doesn't need to be a
Yep.
costume. Hey,
Right.
hey. And then he's
Right.
got, I
We
love it.
have living dolls here. You can use them as furniture. And Bill is just looking
Bill
blank
just,
stare.
yeah, gives him that nose, points
He
that nose
doesn't
at
fight
him.
or flight. He just blank dissociates. He's like, huh? And then he doesn't do a thing about it.
He just
Next
bails. He
scene,
gets
it's
out
just
of
moving
there.
on.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, okay, and leaves. He doesn't tell anybody. He doesn't try to save that young girl.
Right.
Gross.
He's a participant by just
I
letting it
mean,
happen.
by his not saying a word, it
Yeah.
is continuing. And that's what's wrong with the world.
Yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah. So here we have the threatening man at the gate.
Little
And
boy.
this is here one hour apart from where he is kissing Domino. Like the moment of like being almost at the edge of danger, where he's like almost gonna die from HIV and he's kissing, like Domino kisses his face. This is 1 hour from that point
That's
at
crazy.
50 minutes. So like this relates to that
That's
at the 1
interesting.
hour intervals.
And then
So
there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff there because then Alice makes the call to save him and whatnot.
right,
So yeah,
just
it's
like
interesting.
how Fidelio made the call to save him down in the
Right.
underworld. So it's the same. He keeps getting saved by these, occult women that are like slaves to the cult. It's the same cult. They keep trying to save him, and he's still just stumbling into danger like a fool. He's the jerk. Talked about
Right.
that.
Stumbling
Yeah.
into danger and saved by the occult women of the occult, saved by
Yeah.
women of the occult.
Yeah. God bless him.
Yeah, exactly. So he gets this letter and he fucks right off.
Yep. So he goes back to the red door, the lotto store, right?
Leaves the
And
blue
then,
gate, goes to the red door.
yep, right, from the blue gate of danger. And then he goes out through, and then he goes through this red door. And 265 probably has some significance, but I don't know. I didn't look into it. So he learns about how she's HIV positive, and he's like, oh, okay. And then he leaves. So she's like, yes, it's devastating. And I think this is 2 hours from, or is this an hour from something else? I'll have to look. But anyway, we'll get deeper into that some other time. I'll talk
Yeah,
about
no,
that on
that's
my own
definitely
show.
something that we can dissect on its own, is the
Right.
different time crossing, for sure.
Right, right. So now he's being followed, and on the yellow banner it says abacus, I think.
Yes.
So like he's being counted, he's being like numbered and fingered, like
What
an
does
abacus.
abacus mean?
An
In
abacus
this
is
sense.
an ancient Chinese calculator, basically. It's like a bunch of
Oh, right. Okay.
beads on a string, and you can count, and you.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So he's being followed, right, by this thug,
Yeah.
scary dude, and I'll get a closer look at him. And moving on. So right above his head,
Yep.
237.
There it is. And it
I didn't
crossed
find
it.
that myself. So I found that online. Somebody else brought that up. I don't know exactly who, but
I totally found that on my own, because I
oh,
noticed,
good.
because it's got like
Right.
the colored lights attracting
Right.
to it, and
Green
it's
light.
just interesting how
Right.
it's
Right.
kind of got a frosting going on almost, so they're kind of hiding what's going
Right.
on. You can't fully see what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
And there's
Like there's
that
like a
dog.
ghostliness to the fog.
Yeah, and there's the if you want to, because there's the theory of
No
uh,
pets or whatever.
there's the theory of Milich the dog that we've kind of talked about a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
And so it's like, okay,
Yeah.
Milich, this isn't a party for Milich is level. This is above his pay grade kind of thing. So it's interesting.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
Right.
interesting.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like you
No
can't,
dogs.
yeah, no
Yeah.
dogs, no
Just the
milk.
the higher order
Yeah,
cult people. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, so he's instilled with fear right under the number 237, which relates to The Shining.
Yeah.
And that's the fated room where Danny stumbles in and gets attacked by the old witch, and then Jack stumbles in and kisses the old witch.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So there's lots going on there.
Hmm.
I just noticed something here, so I'll let you
Please.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. You
Okay.
first.
Oh, I just kind of noticing a couple things now. So in the oh yeah, geez, there's a lot going on here. So in the
Yeah.
windows above, there's an X. There's the lights on the left. There's like two infinity signs. It looks like there's a lot of interesting with the use of
Hmm.
garland and the lights and stuff. There's a lot of
Right.
different shapes and interesting
Those
stuff
are
going on
X's
there.
of light in the window. You're right. Those
Yeah.
are, and it's like impending doom. Like this dude is trying to
So
kill him. Right.
yeah. So I've never noticed that
Yeah.
before. That's a new one for me. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But
Me neither. Yeah.
there's
I
the I
didn't.
mean
There
there's
is a
the
definite, and there's a black X like directly above him, and
yeah,
so two
exactly.
windows
Like
up.
that X is very prominent, right?
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay. So we have what that gentleman there at the newsstand is Emilio. That is Kubrick's longtime assistant, family friend.
Driver, I think.
Kubrick had to include him. I think there's a banner in one of these places that Emilio's like also like they named the
Yes, I
place
think
after.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that there's Emilio, one of Kubrick's best friends. And this Emilio being the newsman, that is a callback to Kubrick's first photograph that ever got noticed, where he took a picture of a newsman at a newsstand, and the newspaper said FDR dies. And I might have given you a screenshot of that. I don't know if I sent that,
I don't
but
think so, but I'll
that's
pull it
fine.
up.
You can
I'll
find it.
post it up there when I
Yeah,
edit
yeah,
it,
yeah. That's fine.
because yeah, it's a I mean, it's a wonderful photo.
Right. Yeah, it's a great photo. It really captures the emotion and the loss of the hope of like whatever these people had for FDR. Like
And the guy
the
looks
guy
so
was, I mean,
sad.
he was, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, whatever. It was like I don't care for any of the like the I'm an anarchist, and
Oh, so yeah,
they're all
no, I hear
snakes.
you.
They're all
Yeah.
snakes. Like, but
Yeah, oh
whatever.
yeah. They
Uh,
get there for a reason, right? Yeah.
but that emotion was happening in the world at the time, or in America at the time, and he captured the emotion of the newsman. And then that photograph is how he got his job at Look magazine. He took that photograph when he was a teenager, and he got hired at Look magazine as a teenager, and he got to really hone his chops of photography as working for this magazine. And that led him to future endeavors where he started making films.
Started
So this is like a callback. This is his last film, and it's a callback to his original first photograph that really got him looked at.
It's cool. It's an interesting, if you're a Kubrick fan or knowledgeable on his history and whatnot, it's definitely a prominent callback or Easter egg of
Right.
his life, right? It's cool. It's cool stuff. So
So now we have the stop CMB. I'm not sure what the CMB is, but I'm sure that's something.
yeah.
Somebody has a theory on that somewhere. He's making eye contact. It's like, and Wren Street. It's like it's wrenching. Like it's another bird, I think. A wren.
Okay.
Anyway, and this is like now there's a witness. So now the guy can't go get him because he's at the newsstand.
Right.
So it's like, oh, now he's
safe at
safe.
the newsstand.
Right. And then it says on the newspaper, lucky to be alive is the one that he picks up. So Bill himself is lucky to be alive. He didn't get hit with the X's that was following him.
Exactly. Right? Or the HIV.
Yeah.
And there's the horoscope things there. Little horoscope rules.
Yeah, those are in purple. Yeah, that's important. It's purple. Yeah. And it's like his fate. Your horoscope is like your chart is like your future, your fate.
Right.
So now he's entering, and we have a pre-Raphaelite painting on the wall. It's a print, I guess, but that is Ophelia. And Ophelia, she's white with purity, and she drowns herself in the stream, I think. And I think we have on the wall, I can't tell exactly who that is, but in the portrait, the gentleman with the chops.
Oh, okay.
But we have butterflies framed. So butterflies relates to monarch, relates to the butterfly wings that Helena was wearing, and Helena's wings were virginal and white, like Ophelia. And so we have these butterflies are pinned down and on display, like they, they're slaves, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's the Monarch poster and the Shining.
Right. Yeah. So here we get a close up of the newspaper, lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
And I think he's sitting under another pre-Raphaelite. I don't know if I took a screenshot of that, but a lot of times people should pay attention to the paintings. A lot of times directors will put paintings or sculpture or artwork that informs the main story being told, just like books on a shelf, it's something to look at.
Exactly. Here's the fun article with all sorts of tidbits.
Right. So here we have a close up of the newspaper, and we have derailed is highlighted, like maybe their plans of the killing him was derailed, and now this ex beauty queen is drug overdosed instead.
Right. Nice.
So we can read the New York hospital, Amanda Curran. We learned her name. 30 years old, found unconscious in her room at the Florence Hotel. Security personnel by security, and she was checked in by, they were unable to reach her phone, and it says that there were two men accompanying her. I don't know, that part is kind of cut off. We see that part of the page later in Ziegler's room, the billiard room.
Confronts him. Okay, gotcha.
Right. So there is a mistake in this. There's two lines across all three of those. Two lines are repeated. And we see on the left side, hotel by security personnel after her agent asked them to check in by her. B, hotel by security personnel after her agent asked them to, So that line is repeated. And the next one, her at the time she ingested the drugs. Her at the time she ingested the drugs. And then the next one, She has many important friends in fashion and entertainment worlds. She has many friends, important friends in fashion and entertainment worlds.
We've
So this
heard
is
that
like,
before, right? We've got friends in the art game.
yeah, yeah. And the women, like, they're, Nuala Windsor and the other one there.
Right.
She was at Rockefeller Plaza, you know. So these are the high-end models, right? But so the fact that it skips like that, and we're only given a flash of it in the film, when your brain sees the words that are skipped, you will look at that line. It's a way of attracting your attention.
Right.
So if it was just straight and it just went normal, all the words would be all the same as all the other words. But the fact that it skips, it makes you focus on that. So it's an attention getter. And those are, I think, what the words that Kubrick was trying to get into our heads at that moment. Derailed, and then the ex beauty queen, blah, 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 her name, and then ingested the drugs, many important friends, security personnel. Those things he wanted to get us into our brains. And if we do read later, we see Leon Vitali's name.
Right.
He's a London fashion designer, and we know from the Epstein debacle and what's his name there?
Jean-Luc.
Yeah, Jean-Luc Brunel, and then the other guy that owns the Victoria's Secret stuff,
Lex Westner.
Les Wexner. Yeah. So those people, they trade women like they are slave women. They trade them like candy, and that's what was happening to this woman. And it's give us another insight of the fate of the women that are born in these rituals and that grow up in this life. Like some of them are breeders, like Alice, because she was like the tippity top of the best. They want to make more Alice's. And the other ones they let get destroyed because whatever, we'll just make another one. They don't have care for people.
Yeah.
They burn away their care.
Have you
Right.
seen it's the newer Victoria's Secret documentary series?
No. Is it
Shout out to
Netflix?
my
It's
girl Whitney
probably a
Webb. She
whitewash.
was in it. They
Oh, really?
interviewed her
She's great.
for it.
I
So
can't wait to read her new books. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. That'll be a good one. So,
yeah.
but yeah, the documentary wasn't too bad, and I mean
Great.
it's nice to
Can you
see
send
they
me a
asked.
link? Maybe send me a link,
Sure, yeah,
please.
I can do that. I'll make a note of
Thank
that.
you. Okay. So here we have that's interesting. The word Tory.
I was looking at that too, Tori. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it reminds me of Rota, Torah, like
Okay.
that whole thing.
Hola.
But like the fate of the wheel of fate, rotation, but anyway, so
Hmm.
he's Dr. Harford. He's Mr. Doctor Man. Look at my
Fox
ID.
Mulder. I'm a doctor.
Right. Yeah. Right. I'm an important guy. Look at me.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, fine. She's dealing with him like a normal receptionist. A lot of people say that she looks like the woman in the coffee shop, but it's not the same woman. It's a different
Oh, okay.
face.
Yeah, I've
So
never made that connection. So
that's good. Yeah, because it's not the same woman.
good,
So he's
because it's
learning.
not real.
Yeah. He's learning that her name was, or that she died this afternoon.
Right.
And we see the concern in his face. So they go down to the room, the morgue. I think that someone else mentioned that it's room 1 1 something, like RM, like in Doctor Strangelove, like it's CRM
Oh, okay.
11. Yeah, because
I
like
think
it's
I've
on
seen that in a video.
it's on floor C, and then this is room something, and then they pull it's really interesting how that, but that's not one of mine, it's someone else's discovery. So, but it's interesting how it relates to his other movies. But so they're pulling her out of the morgue, and we see that he can recognize her naked body because he was just speaking with her. And this is the ghostly remnants of what they do to these, this is the fate of his daughter Helena
Right.
if he's not
Right.
if he's not careful.
Right.
So he's confronting Like he's unknown, he might not be cognizant of what's happening. He might just be like, oh my goodness, I almost died, because he's a selfish jerk. But really he's being shown the future, the end result of what these dark occultists do to these beta sex kittens.
The
And
fate of
look at,
Helena. The
right,
fate of Helena, man. That's wild.
unless they use her as a breeder again, like they did for Alice. But this is the fate of many of them. And look at what they did to Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is a prime example of what, gentlemen prefer blondes. She was the one there. Yeah,
Great
she
book.
knew a lot, and she was a programmed multiple, and she was discarded, and it made to look like a drug overdose, just like Mandy here. So drugs is another way that they control these women, because it locks them into the slavery of addiction, keeps them following orders.
Right.
That's a common occurrence of pimps.
Right. Right. No.
Yeah. So that's another view. We can recognize her body. This is the first time that we get to see her face. Like, well, I guess we saw her on the bed, like on the chair in the bathroom, but he gets real close, like Joe Biden sniffing her. I don't mean to make a joke. Sorry, this is a very solemn moment,
No.
but yeah.
The
So
movie.
he's recognizing her. He's recognizing the weight of what has happened and the true danger of what he stumbled into. So moving on from there. So now he's called to the billiard room. This is Ziegler, and we get a quick shot of the portraits.
Right.
And the tricorn hat is visible, like up in the upper right corner. The tricorn hat is visible
Next to the
right above the
dog.
fireplace. Yeah. And the little obedient dog is there.
Exactly.
And we can see the tricorn hat in his hand. And so then Ziegler goes over to the door, and we see this ship probably relates to the opium smuggling, and that type of, his family is related to that type of skull and bones, like opium wars, like that kind of thing. And
And there's
Albert
that
Pike is
blue
part of
light.
that too. Yeah, the blue light. Yeah,
So
Kubrick is really good photographer with that. It accents, the blue is opposing the red of the table, you
right.
know.
Yeah, man.
So it accentuates the red table even further, because every pool table is supposed to
Especially
be
in this
green.
photo. Yeah, exactly.
Well, most pool tables are cyan, that's the common pool table. So now we're made to look at this pool table, and he says he's knocking a few balls around. That's what they were doing on the red carpet. They were knocking their balls, in this orgy. So like that's a
Exactly.
veiled relation to. And as we look at the red carpet, and that's relating the red billiard table to the red carpet of the ritual. And in room 237, we learn that he taps the cue ball on the table, just like Red Cloak taps his wand staff on the red carpet. So that tells us that this is the red carpet, and like, oh yes, okay, good. But moving further from that understanding, there was a balcony above the red carpet with a guy wearing a tricorn hat, and he looks down and
Yeah,
nods his
man.
head, moves his hat around so that we see his hat moving, like. And then his wife has 3 points on her hat too. And then here in the billiard room, we see the portrait has a tricorn hat in his hand. We're going to get a closer look at that in one of the other shots. But so basically, the portraits are representing the people in the balcony above, like on the balcony above the red carpet, looking down at the ritual. Those portraits are above the red table, looking down at his game of knocking balls around.
It's a scale model, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he reveals that he knows everything about it. It is no secret. There is no knowledge hidden from these occultists. They know it all, right?
Yeah. Starts bashing on Nick.
Yep. Talking about, and we see again, there's a tricorn hat, the little dog pointing at the tricorn hat, and he's pointing at the fireplace right there. It's like he's pointing at the tricorn hat.
Yeah.
And so, like, he's saying, point at that cocksucker in the painting.
Yeah. And then
It's like Kubrick calling the guy in the painting a cocksucker.
And then the clock too, right? Just points right directly to it.
So, exactly. Yep.
The dog, yeah,
and
it's all...
the clock is like Saturn energy, like, that type of thing. And the fireplace is a black square within a black square. It's like, that's like the Tesseract right there. Satanism.
That's true.
So here he says, I don't think you realize what kind of trouble you were in. And now we see Ziegler's head is framed within one of the portraits. Like, Kubrick is saying Ziegler is the portrait, and then we get again another look of that tricorn hat is visible. At the head of the table, at the biggest portrait, right above the fireplace, the main dude holds the tricorn hat. And this is supposedly, I mean, you would think this is Ziegler's place. It's probably Ziegler's ancestors.
Right.
And Ziegler's ancestors also handed down that mask that he wears with tricorn hat. And he stands on the balcony and looks down. And he was the guy wearing the tricorn hat. This is evidence of that.
Yeah, that's crazy. And there's a good picture of it there too. You can see
the
perfectly.
Right there, we see it again. And it's framed right above Ziegler. And it's as he's saying through his mouth, he says, who do you think those people were? And we get this wide shot where we see all the portraits on that side of the wall in frame.
Right.
That's who those people were. The people, the families of the people in those portraits. And he says he's not going to tell you their names, but you're not going to sleep so well at night, right? He's not telling the names. Kubrick isn't speaking it into the word. But he is, though. He's saying who they are, and you're made to look at those paintings, and that relates to the bathroom scene with Mandy, exactly 2 hours ago. Because this here is 2 hours and 17 minutes. It was 17 minutes and something seconds when we skipped right in the first episode.
Yeah.
At those 1 hour mark. So this is exactly 2 hours after, like, the bathroom scene. And in the bathroom, we saw Ziegler's head framed by a painting then as well. That was Paula 6 Months on Red, painted by Christiane Kubrick, Kubrick's wife. And that was a pregnant woman, naked, lying on a red carpet. Like, that's what they're doing, is they're making babies. Like, they're making babies when they're knocking balls around on the red carpet. They're creating the next generation of these slaves. And their ancestors kept slaves, beta sex kitten mind controlled slaves, and they're doing the same thing. That's what the elite have always done. It's a generational thing. They've been doing it since Babylon. Kubrick is showing us all of this.
Oh, it's crazy. And this is going back. This is 17 minutes, 49 seconds right here.
Yeah, at the another hour. Right.
So that's
and then if you skip ahead to the 49, 2 hours, 17:49, I might have got a screenshot of that.
2 hours. Sorry, what? 2 hours?
2 hours, 17:49. Something close to that.
No, we just said 2 hours.
I didn't. 2:17:49.
No.
Oh, I didn't get one. Okay. All right. Well, we'll look into that further. but
Yeah, no
it's
problem.
49 seconds off. I'll bet you 49 seconds at 17 even. I'll bet you his head was framed by that painting. Do you have 17 minutes even?
So 2 hours. Yeah, that was this one, 2 hours 17.
Well, that's 2:17. Yeah, but do you have 17? Just
Oh, just 17?
0:17? Yeah.
No.
Oh, damn it.
No.
Okay. I'll have to go back and do this all again. I'll just not this expose with you, but I mean I'm gonna look directly at the exact
The
moments of the
paintings and stuff.
1
Oh, and
hour.
the
Yeah,
timelines.
yeah,
Yeah, man. No,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a lot there for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is him telling us who they are. It's the people in the paintings.
So
And so moving on from there, he's saying she was a hooker, right? They breed their own hookers. And he taps the chalk on the table, just like he tapped the cue ball. So it's again, those women on the red carpet were hookers, right? But that's basically what Nuala Windsor is. That's what Alice used to be. It's just another word for a sex slave.
crazy.
They have to breed their own hookers. They can't just get any old hooker.
Just telling him it was a big setup there, Billy boy.
Yeah, he says, what if it was all fake? So he's giving the plausible deniability
Right.
so that Tom Cruise or whatever, so that Bill can have cognitive dissonance comfortably. This is how the elite get away with all of they've done. Like they give us such fake lie, like 9/11, like jet fuel, melted steel beams, and all this.
Right, exactly.
Like it's so
Ridiculousness.
implausible, but they're giving it to us as an escape so that we don't have to think it could be anything else. We want it to be, oh yes, the guys with box cutters did this.
And plastic
But really,
knives.
yeah, but I mean, they don't make NORAD stand down. It's obviously a globalist coup, like takeover. It's a new world order inception. But
Absolutely.
but they give us this fake story that we can choose to believe, even though we know it's false. This way, it like we don't have to look at the trauma of what really it is and the real horror of it. And then we can go about our daily life just believing this false thing. Nobody wants to know that they actually attacked, that they killed all those people so that they could have wars in Iraq. Like nobody wants to think that. Nobody wants to know that this country is run by Satanists, that keep slaves like this, that create trauma-based mind-controlled slaves. Nobody wants to know that horror. They would rather believe a lie.
Absolutely.
So he's giving a pitch to Bill. He's saying, you can believe this lie instead if you like.
And that
So
lie is called the official story. That's what they call
yeah,
it, is the official
yeah.
story. And sometimes
It's
with
called it's called
big
history.
exactly, yeah, his
Yeah,
story. And
exactly.
for big lies like Kennedy assassination or 9/11, they have a nice
Right.
big packaged
Yep.
9/11
It's
commission
easy.
report or Warren Commission
Right.
report, which are both just
Yep.
as
Cover
laughable, in
ups.
my opinion,
Right.
ridiculousness for people
Right.
to further just attach onto that lie. So they have some sort of
Exactly.
support in their
They're
behavior.
giving they're giving the they're giving the lie that's easier to believe so that you don't have to swallow the hard truth.
Oh,
You know,
exactly.
and people get to choose the lie you choose with your free will. What do you want to,
Yeah. You
you know?
choose the lie if you want to believe it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, if you understand that truth is real and shit, and you want to align with truth, then you're not going to accept a lie, and you're going to have to eat the black pills. Like, that's my
Yeah.
life, you know, these days.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Okay, so now we get another view of this clipping, and we get to see the lower left corner.
Yeah.
And we get to see the police have been unable to locate the two men, but the police, they don't suspect foul play because the cops work for them, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't believe there's any crime, but they would like to speak to these two men.
If we can.
If they can. And we get another look. We get to see again, we get another look at this thing. So we learn more about Mandy's history and how she undergoes treatment of depression, you know, because of the abuse that she's endured, you know, and that she's a slave.
Right.
It's really sad. So he's confronting with the truth. He's saying, yeah, your convenient lie doesn't really fit with the truth, because this is the truth here. She's dead and you killed her. Like, what happened here? And so now we also see the egg of the lamp.
Right.
It's like an egg with two snakes. It's kind of like the Orphic egg. That's an occult symbol, but there's two snakes. It's like a caduceus.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's like he's presenting the truth, and that egg is in his hand.
Yeah, that's an interesting shot.
So this is him saying, her door was locked from the inside. The police are happy. End of story. He's putting a lid on it.
Exactly.
Putting a hermetic seal on that mason jar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
so
I hear you.
so they control the police. We all know that. If you understand, like, the police are all masons. Like, if you call a mason a widow's son, he'll look at you like, huh, how do you know that? You know?
Right.
But they wear blue and they have those occult symbols, you know, because they're Blue Lodge porch masons. They're slaves. The Knight Kadash degree is one of the Red Lodge degrees. The Red Lodge is higher orders of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry.
Gotcha. I gotta go through there's a good someone's done a good breakdown of the Scottish Rite in this movie and
Oh,
the
good.
33 degrees, and so one day I'll
That's
go
good.
through that and learn some of
What's
that.
his name, the gentleman that does that? Do you know?
I'll make a note to find that for you.
Okay, send me a link. Send me
Yeah,
a
I
link.
have no idea.
Sorry to the listeners, they can't hear it, but yeah.
It's okay.
Anyway, so here we have the threat. Look at Bill's face. Look
Yeah.
at the tension in his shoulders. And there's Ziegler grabbing him from behind. Like, you are my bitch. I own you. And then he says, life goes on until it doesn't. That's a veiled threat. I can kill you. And he's smiling with laughter. You're my little bitch.
Yeah.
And Bill has to understand his place and that threat of his life. He could also die. So this is Ziegler confirming, yes, yeah, we did kill her, and we kill you too.
Yeah.
So life goes on until it doesn't. You better be careful, buddy. Just like when you hear Bill Gates talking about Epstein. Well, you got to be careful because he's dead now.
Yeah,
So you gotta be careful. Like, what is that?
What's
Bill
going
Gates
on
kill him? I think maybe. Yeah. That's speculation. Don't sue me. Anyway, so now she knows that something happened. She is confronting Bill with more truth. All of these truths are being exposed here at the end of the film. And, you know, she has the purple, the purple of her bedspread is like the purple color of the high occult magicians who have psychic ability. her blonde hair. She has psychic abilities that's evident in earlier in the film, like when she calls when he's about to get with Domino. And
Right.
so anyway, her psychic ability allows her to know that maybe she was at the party, maybe in the Traum Novelle German TV rendition, the wife was at the party. And Kubrick does take many scenes from that depiction and depicts them identically in Eyes Wide Shut. It's an exact replica, well, of some of the scenes from that German TV depiction. And you can actually find it on YouTube. I think it's titled Traum Novelle.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, so
that.
in that rendition, she was at the party and she was wearing a mask, and he like sees, the husband sees her at the party, and he's like, huh? And then it's like, but it's like a dream, and she like dances off again.
Right.
So anyway, she may have been at the party, but at least she knows that this is important. And even if she's not psychic, whatever, she found it. She's like, she wants to confront him. What is it? But I believe that she knows, and she wants him to know that he is in danger because she works for the cult.
Yeah.
So they're telling her to give him a message. And then this is like a test. And so let's skip to the next slide.
Okay.
So she's working for the cult right now. And he says to her, I'll tell you everything.
Right.
And then he tells her everything. So Bill just failed the test. So now, because Red Cloak said, if you tell anyone, there will be dire consequences for you and your family. Now he told someone. Now his daughter is going to get stolen.
Boom.
This is the test to see if he would tell anyone.
Yeah.
And he does. And she is mourning the loss of her old life. She knows these consequences are coming because she understands the cult. She knows she knows the skinny of how the cult operates. And so now he's exposing to her all of the truths. So he is a loose cannon. And so she knows, okay, now I got to bring Helena to the toy store.
Right.
So now after he tells her everything, in the next scene, in the next slide, maybe, she tells Bill she's expecting us to take her Christmas shopping. And look at Bill's face.
Right.
It looks like fear. Doesn't it look like fear?
Absolutely.
Maybe subconsciously he knows this is where he loses her, at the toy store. So moving on. So like she's programmed. Now she has to bring the kid to the toy store.
Yeah.
Because he told the thing. So now they're at the toy store. And we see a big bear behind them. And so we see the red wall is reminiscent of the red carpet. And we see the gentleman blowing the bubbles. The bubbles almost look like the stars shooting out of the gun. And it looks like just about damn near all those stars are upside down, if you look.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, a few of them are kind of tilted, but they all look kind of upside down to me. There's a few right side up, I guess.
For sure, man.
So we also, following down from that, like we see the characters of Bill and Alice are they're under the gun of this dude.
Nice.
Right. And he's like blowing the bubbles on him, and it's like the little kid is enchanted, and it's like a magic trick, right? And then we see the gun on the wall behind, and then below the gun is the magic circle.
Yeah.
And we see the zodiacal circle of the zodiac on that red, it's like a board game. Well, no, it's like a magic box set for kids to do magic, like a hat you pull a fake rabbit out of or some shit. And
Is that
so that,
real?
I don't know if it's a real thing. It might be.
Mm,
I actually never looked it up. I don't know. You should check it out.
we'll look into that.
And we see there's dolls there in the cabinet. And that's foreshadowing for another scene that we're going to see in a couple minutes next to the magic circle, little dolls in boxes. So it's a pretty crowded store. And we can see that Bill is bowing his head to a thug that almost runs into him. This dude is like an Italian looking mafioso type thug who like is looking down, almost like he was walking past Helena, was just looking at Helena. And then Bill moves aside for the guy. So we see the thug that's going to steal Helena right there.
Wow.
So anyway,
Just a quick side note. This is what
please.
pull it up here. Looking at the magic circle. I don't think it's real.
Yeah, that's Somerton Tumblr. That's related to the movie.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
this
yeah.
is like the best shot that we actually have like a shot of it open.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, it's
That's neat. Do they sell it like a
I don't
trinket thing for the movie?
I don't think so. I don't even think you can buy it as a
That's interesting. Lots of little plastic doodads in there for the
doodad. Yeah,
listeners that
little
aren't
there's a
looking. It's
wand. There's a wand
yeah.
in there. But there, like we spoke before about the colors, the blue and the red, right?
Yes.
There's the blue and the
Yes.
red, blue and the red. There's some yellow there as well, but
Yeah. But the green, there's like almost like a pack of cards. It looks like maybe tarot cards that say magic circle and it's in like a green pouch.
okay. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that might be
Magic dark
something.
circle.
That might be a tarot set.
Yeah.
Because I mean, playing cards are the tarot. It's a hidden representation of the minor arcana of the tarot, the 52 cards.
So there you go. That's all we got.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. It's interesting.
Yeah, thanks for that. So it's not real. It was created for the movie, just like the newspaper was created for the movie and
Right.
so on. So we see the thug. This is the first introduction of the thug, and Bill even has to move aside and bow his head,
Right.
which is telling. So now Helena finds an old, and we see between Bill and Alice in that
Sorry.
last one. That's fine. If we see between Bill and Alice in the last one, the thug stops walking in that direction and he loops behind. He turns and you can see his face framed right between the two shoulders of Bill and Alice. So that Kubrick is showing us that thug sees them and turns around, and now the thug is following them. We're going to see the thug follows them later, and he doesn't have any kids with him.
Right. Exactly. He's
So
like the
next
watch. I think
slide.
he's like kind of like the lookout for the two guys that do the pickup.
Well, no, he's the guy that grabs her. They're not going to get their hands dirty grabbing a kid. He's
Okay,
the
so
he's the
okay. So
thug that
they're
works for
kind of there
them.
to facilitate, and then he's the grabber.
They're there to make sure he gets the right one and they pick her out.
Yeah.
It's like it's fun for them. They're at the store, they're picking out their new toy.
Yeah, it's super creepy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we see the teddy bear again. She likes teddy bears, and we see this rich black dude with he's got a expensive watch, and he's grabbing the teddy bear as she's holding it like that, like he's running through to grab,
Right.
like he's choosing her too. Like it's weird. But that's kind of subtle. And we see next to her there's stuffed tigers and lions, just like Domino's bedspread had a stuffed tiger. And we'll see that again here in the toy store. Moving on. So now they're coming around a corner, and above her head is one of the most important symbols that we can see in this movie. We see an octagon right above her head. The octagon is a two-dimensional representation of the tesseract. We talked about the tesseract before. It's the cube within a cube. It's the prison of mind control. It's a big symbol for Satanism. And here we are, it's in yellow. And in the center of it is a phallic obelisk, and it's got the black and white checkers of the floor of Freemasonry. And it's like a lighthouse, which represents the Inanna Ishtar, the woman carrying a torch like Columbia is a representation of the goddess fertility Inanna Ishtar, which at Ziegler's party, Alice, her head was framed with the star of Ishtar.
Right.
So she was enacting that as a physical representation of that goddess energy. So here we see that her right above her head is the Masonic obelisk and the tesseract all in one symbol. It's like a Ferris wheel, right? And it
Right.
but in that way, and also on the wall they have KNEX, like connects, and then they have this other thing that's like a Ferris wheel. So it makes you really look at that image of that at that back of the wall, and it makes you look at that circling octagon, which is their symbol. There you'll see octagons in a lot of things that represent mental slavery. You can learn about that from Mark Passio. He does a podcast, What on Earth is Happening.
Oh.
People should check that out, whatonearthishappening.com. We all know that the floor of the House of Freemasonry is the black and white checkers, checkerboard. And this lighthouse thing, which is the stanchion holding up the Ferris wheel, is an obelisk that represents the phallus of Osiris, which is the Cleopatra's needle. Like they have one at the in Rome, they have one in London, they have one in Washington D.C. It's the Washington Monument.
Right.
So that is a symbol of their god. The goddess Isis had to fashion a golden penis to attach so that they could copulate to make the god Horus, which is the new Aeon. Crowley talks a lot about Horus and stuff. So that's why the obelisk is revered by Freemasons and all the occultists, because it represents the generative power of what, like the power of God of creation, is that they believe that semen had all of the genetic information, and so
Right.
like
Yeah.
the male passed down all the genetics until they learned later in science that the woman is halfway there, like half of it is from her. So this above her head shows us that she is bound by the mind control of the occult orders of Freemasonry that worship the obelisk. Like it's all there, right? So as we move to the next slide, we see it again, and it lines up with her head.
Right.
So now her head is occulting that octagon. And if you drew a line straight through her head and her brain, you would hit the octagon on the other side.
Yeah.
So that's how it works with the energies of the astrology and such. Like when things line up, there's a transmission through something in it. So basically her brain is lining up with that symbol of mind control, right? So she is working through, her mind control is in effect right now, and she's just doing what she's programmed to do, and he's looking at her for answers, and she's leading him to what her bosses want, which is to deliver Helena to them at this toy store at this time. And if we look again behind them, there's the thug right between their shoulders.
Boom.
Directly behind him.
Yeah.
Or behind them. And now they're surrounded by teddy bears. And then there's the thug with connects right above his head. like, everybody take a look, connects here
Yeah, we're making
to
the
this
connection.
dude. And then you see Pooh Bear way over in the corner. And then we see the thug is following them and he's going down that aisle. The aisle that he's going down is the aisle behind, where, like, if he walks to the end of that aisle and come around, he'll meet those two men
Right.
that we're going to see in this next scene. So he's looping around. So where Helena walks towards those men, she's going to go around right into the aisle where this guy is. He's going to steal her right now. So we get to see another view. Okay, so here we go.
Where she shows the Barbie.
She's holding the Barbie. Now this Barbie, like, we've seen in the first shot of the when we see Alice drop her dress, there's two tennis rackets, and we see this beautiful naked woman who you can just undress easily. Is the program multiple slave. Like, the first shot was showing how Alice is like an adult Barbie because she has those tennis rackets and she gets dressed so easy. The first Barbie had tennis rackets like that. So anyway, so we see here, this that she's holding is the Nutcracker Barbie. And when we first meet Helena, she asks to see the Nutcracker. So this completes that arc from the beginning. And there's a doll on the side that's alive. That Nutcracker is a living doll, which relates to the story of the Nutcracker. And we know that the story of the Nutcracker relates to pedophilia.
Exactly.
We talked about that in the first episode. So now he's introducing Barbie. Like, you can't not look at it. You have to see. And then what is Barbie? Barbie is a dissociative identity disorder person. She has one name, but she is many characters. She's all these different Barbies. And one of the Barbies that we see directly behind Helena is Marilyn Monroe Barbie. And if you look closely, it says gentlemen prefer blondes. And she's wearing the red dress. She almost has a tail.
Yeah, look
So,
at that, eh? She
yeah.
definitely does have a
And
tail on that. Yeah. That's crazy.
she's wearing the red dress of the Scarlet Whore.
Right.
The Scarlet Whore relates to the painting that Quilty hides behind, is sitting on a cat beast. And we know from the lust card of Crowley's Toth tarot deck that the Whore of Babylon rides cat beast. And this Whore of Babylon is Inanna. It is Ishtar. It's the same. So Barbie there is acting out the role of Inanna Ishtar, just like Alice does, just like the women in the ritual do. And they're clothed and bathed in that red. So you see the programming. So SRA victims are given certain programs to formulate to like organize the altars that are created from all of the traumatic torture. So a lot of times, if you read Bryce Taylor again, she talks about her dolls, and her father would come in late at night and would abuse her. But before he did, he would open up this case on the wall that had all these different Barbie dolls. And he would pick out, Alice or whatever. And he would give her this doll and he would say, now you're this. And he would spin her around and make her look at a mirror, and he would call her Alice a bunch. And then he would rape her while she's holding the doll. So she focuses on the doll. And that brings up the altar. He traumatizes that altar, and then he further programs it. And he uses that. So, like, when Bob Hope purchases Bryce Taylor or Sue Ford, she has two modes. Kissinger uses her for her mind files, while Bob Hope uses her for sex. And she'll use different jewelry. When she's wearing diamonds, then she's being used for sex. And that's what gentlemen prefer blondes relates to. The big number at the end of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes is diamonds are a girl's best friend. And that relates to Cecil Rhodes, which further relates to the British orders that are controlling the world. And, it relates to the heraldic shields on the wall in the orgy space. It's all one big system of control. So people should look into diamonds and what that's all about. Cecil Rhodes, the creation of South Africa, Rhodesia, like how he created the Rhodes Scholar program with his will, and how those Rhodes Scholars are working to ensnare America under the rule of Britain. Just like Bill Clinton, Rhodes Scholar, he worked for CIA moving all the cocaine through. Like the Britain they run the drugs, like Poppy Bush was called Poppy for a reason.
Right.
We went into Afghanistan and Vietnam for the heroin. It's like drugs are a big part of global economy, right? And
Absolutely.
it's all hush hush. We don't know about that, but they work in that. So diamonds and using slave labor to dig up diamonds and holding them out of the market by owning all the diamond mines and not releasing diamonds creates a false demand for them. And then having movies like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes creates a demand in the public. That whole movie is a advertisement for men to spend 5 months or whatever of their salary on a trinket, which is worthless.
Right.
And that just causes more slavery. He has to go slave away to go do that. And they can reap all the rewards of all that slavery. They get all that money from that gentleman, and they promote it as if this is the only way to show love to your wife. And that's a form of mind control, and it keeps us enslaved in this consumerism. And we think that we're choosing with free will. Yeah. Right? Yes, it is. And all like the game. Like the 007 diamonds are forever, like that whole thing was another commercial just like that, released at around the same time as Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. And in that movie Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, there's this walrus of a man. He's ugly, but he owns diamond mines, and Marilyn Monroe, the most beautiful woman, wants him instead of the attractive young males.
Oh, wow.
That's what it's telling us. Once you have the power of diamonds, she will be your slave. And she is the first public model of a trauma-based mind control slaves. That she's the poster child for that. And they killed her with a drug overdose.
Right.
Just like Mandy. So and if you look, Kubrick is really good with this one. He chose that Gentlemen Prefer Blondes doll is sitting on top of a golden box with another doll inside, held captive inside a golden box, like a golden cage. And then the window that she gets to see out through is an inverted pentagram, right? Symbol of Satanism right there. But it's a gold box. Oh, it's so ornate and pretty. She gets to wear diamonds. Yeah. So this is such a huge element, and Kubrick like throws it in the viewer like wham, like right at the end. And I don't know if I gave you any screenshots of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Yep.
But we have some of there, and we will see the people as furniture, which was spoken about in Lolita in the very beginning. Quilty was offering, you can watch murders in a yellow chair, and you can use people as furniture. And here we see a black chandelier with like barely any light on it. And these women, they're smiling, but they're bound in black, almost black leather. And one of them, the one on the left, almost looks like she's about to cry. And their wrists are bound, their leg is bound, and their waist is bound. And then if you look at the women on the inside of the chandelier, they're on their backs with their legs bound open. I mean, and then the red, like the red carpet, This is relating us because Kubrick is giving that to us, and any film buff has seen this movie. And when they see that Marilyn Monroe doll, they think of this big number. This here is the non-submersible unit of this movie. Everybody remembers this big number where she sings "Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend." And we see here more women as furniture. And these women are holding up the chandelier, just like the bronze lighting fixtures in the ritual space of the Rothschild Mansion, Metmore Towers. There are women holding up chandeliers. They're bronze women, and we see that she's the one in the light. All the other ones, she's the only woman that anybody looks at. They're all coveting her attention. She's in the light, and she has the diamonds. And these other ones are bound slaves, and they have the ram of Aries at their waist, their solar plexus.
Crazy.
Yeah. And those are the gentlemen as they prefer those blondes, right?
Right.
And we can remember Madonna, the Material Girl, that whole thing. She was using this image too. She was regurgitating this imagery. She was trying to be Marilyn Monroe, because Marilyn Monroe is, she's a symbol now of this phenomenon of MK Ultra, beta, sex kitten, mind control slaves,
Right.
So yeah, maybe go on to the next one of this. We've only got a few of this, so we can show these. Gentlemen prefer blondes. Oh yeah, okay.
We go back to go back to gentlemen. Okay, yep. What else do you want to see?
I wanted to show how the other women in that they had veils on. So, but it's okay. We don't need to go there. We'll stay here. Okay.
That's good.
All right.
Veils. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
You're good. So we see that she's the flower in the center, and all the other women have black veils over their face. They don't even have an identity. She, on the other hand, has a face because she's wearing diamonds. So it makes the women want to be that. Women want to be Barbie growing up. They want to be glamorous. They want to have diamonds because these movies program them to do so. And the women here, the maidens all have flowers in their hair, like the midsummer maidens in the fertility rituals of the old days. Yeah.
Interesting. The flowers in her hair.
Mm-hmm. And pink, Crowley will tell you about pink, relates to it, like controls with sex, like because the vagina is pink,
Okay.
And all these women, they're dancing, but they have veils,
Yeah.
So they're anonymous women. They have nothing. So, and she's grabbing at these men. These straps are hanging in her face like flaccid penises, and the men are just holding them out like straps of like bondage straps. They're like black leather straps with like rhinestones on them. She's touching them together and holding them like in her face, like in porno with the
two dicks.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
The other women are laughing at her. Haha, she has to.
Yeah, look at them up there. They're like,
right. She'll do anything for those diamonds.
Another one. There's more.
Yep. So they're all bringing diamonds to her, and she is the belle. And that is this is the big commercial. This is the thing that sits in their mind at the end of the film when they walk out. And yep, there she is with her perfect everything. And she's like, huh? Like she's a doe. She is prey. She's got those big eyes like a doe, like a deer in headlights. And yep, I think I pretty much got the idea of this. I might have taken too many pictures. But yeah, so okay, back to the main film, Eyes Wide Shut. So here they are at the end of the aisle, and they're discussing, They're in their deep discussion. And we see on the right side with Alice, on behind Alice is big stuffed cat tigers,
Right.
more cat beast Inon representations, just like the stuffed lion on Domino's bedspread. This here is a symbol of their fertility cult. And those two gentlemen behind them, directly behind Alice, you see over her shoulder, those two gentlemen look very similar to the men at the bottom of the stairs at Ziegler's party. And we learn about that from room 237.
Right.
Not my idea, but it was it. God, I forget his name. I'm sorry, I forget his name, but he reveals that to us in room 237 that Helena is stolen. And that's really what sent me down the rabbit hole into discovering all of this other stuff. And there they are again, yes, at the bottom of the stairs. And they're like the higher up angels reaching down to grab a beautiful woman as captive in their sexual orders. So that's what is happening to Helena. And we see back at the main. So they're both rubbing her shoulder and almost pushing her away.
Saying goodbye.
They're like pushing her down the aisle, say, see you later. Go follow those dudes. As the dudes start to walk away. And Helena's like, okay. And she looks back.
One last look, right? Like,
yep, this is the last time.
Is this where I'm going, Mom and Dad?
Right, exactly. Am I supposed to? Sure. And Alice is watching. Alice is seeing her last time she gets to see Helena. Right. Bill has his eyes wide shut. He's not even looking.
He's already moved on.
Yep. He doesn't know what's going on. He's a jerk. Yeah. So she follows those men. And now we're awake now at 2:32:32. That's 1 hour from when she gets woken up from her nightmare. And it is her nightmare that her daughter gets stolen. So anyway, she is distracting Bill now. She's got him eye to eye. See this 1:32. She's telling about the nightmare. So this here, she is face to face with Bill at the toy store. And they're going through in one long shot so that we see how much time it takes for them to say these words. And she has his full attention, her face right in his face. So this is blinding him from looking around and seeing Helena. She's holding his attention so that thug at the end of the aisle, at the end, like Helena just walked around like a jay up the other aisle, and that thug just took her. And now everybody knows, everybody, especially in the 90s, in the 80s with that satanic panic, everybody was afraid in a crowded store. Make sure you don't lose your kids.
Stranger danger.
Exactly.
Which was made famous by Jimmy fucking Savile, which is like, oh, man, what the fuck is that?
So ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all parents watching this have an uncomfortable anxiety that occurs. You might not even know consciously, but subconsciously you're thinking, they're not looking at Helena. Where's Helena? She's not holding their hand. This is a busy store. What's going on? Like, why aren't they keeping track of their kid?
Right.
Because it's on purpose. And that might be an unfounded anxiety in the viewer. They might get it on the second or third watch. They might get it after they watch room 237. It's every parent knows to keep track of your kid in a busy place like that.
Yeah.
Because there are pedos that steal kids, and they will end up in a place like Milich's Rainbow Fashions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they don't pay any attention.
We know about that from Epstein. We know about that from lots of things.
There's the final line.
Yep. This is the last word said in any Kubrick movie ever. Fuck. And so she is distracting him with fuck,
Right.
just like she always does. That's always been her role. She's a sex kitten doing the will of the sorcerers who programmed her with trauma, and now she's acting it out as a total slave. She has no will of her own, and she's even letting her daughter be stolen,
Right.
like she was probably as a child.
It's crazy. It's one.
So yeah,
It's the end of the loop, right? That the movie
yep,
finishes that loop right before your eyes, really.
right. That's the last scene, and then it goes black, and then we're to think we don't get to resolve that anxiety of, oh, there's Helena.
Nope.
Oh, there she is. Oh, it's all good. No, we don't get to see that. And that ambiguity, that subjective gives it, that is real art, where it could be both. It could be, oh, they resolved their issues of now they're going to go home and have sex and be in love again. And everything's all right with the world. And he's just going to believe this lie and everything's fine. And all of the dirtiness of the occult orders can be hidden by the fear. And then nobody will mention that ever again. Case closed, right? Also, it could be like this is where Helena gets stolen. This is the beginning of the where the rainbow ends, where you are an eternal quest for finding lost family members. And Stanley Kubrick's own daughter was stolen by a cult during the filming of this movie. She
Right.
was stolen by Scientology. And she went to his funeral, but she didn't even go to her sister's funeral. And she was under the control of a mind control handler while she was at his funeral. She is stolen by the cult. And Vivian was the little girl in 2001 A Space Odyssey that Haywood Floyd talks to on the phone. She asks for a Bush baby. A Bush baby relates to George Poppy Bush.
Okay.
His slaves, his children that he raped, he called them Bush babies. That's another sick connection. But anyway, that that little girl that he spoke to on the phone is Kubrick's daughter Vivian, and that little girl very much looks like Helena in this movie Eyes Wide Shut, because the father always sees his little girl as his little girl.
Right.
So this is Kubrick expressing his loss of his family to the occult orders. She is now a mind controlled slave to Scientology, which is an extension of Crowley, occult, sex magic, all of that. Looking at L. Ron Hubbard, look at his connection to Crowley. And then we see what you're showing us here is the poster from Eyes Wide Shut, which is the mirror. And the mirror is an octagon. She's trapped inside the octagon mirror. And the mirror of Satanism, she is showing the one eye because she is illumined. She has the one eye of consciousness. His eyes are shut. He's distracted by sex. Above her one eye is like the symbol of Vesica Pisces, which is femininity, and it's a cornucopia. It's like two cornucopias. And the Vesica Pisces is like where all life stems from. It's the feminine principle of generation, the feminine generational principle, like the obelisk for men, the Vesica Pisces for females, and that's what the vulva looks like. A Vesica Pisces, all of that. And so it relates to the Inanna fertility cult, and we see all the little bubbles around the rim of the octagon mirror if you look close, what the convex, when you look at a convex bubble on a mirror, it makes a separate little reflection of the main reflection. So if we were to look close, we would see that there are many little Alices looking,
Right.
and they're all separate little Alices. So that represents the dissociative identities, the multiple personalities that she has within her from the trauma-based mind control programming of the SRA, from the fertility cult of, yeah. So there she is in front of the mirror.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild, my friend.
So yeah, I guess, do you have any questions about it or anything?
That's no, man, like not necessarily at this time. I mean, that's the end of our initial breakdown. So
Right.
props to you, my friend. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think that's a nice, these three videos will be good resources for people, for a good starting point that want to start breaking the video down. And I think it'll be a good ground zero for us to kind of start looking at other projects and other things we want to start dissecting. And I mean, I know going through our notes, I know there's a bunch of stuff that we've noted that we want to look into. So yeah,
Sure.
with something like this, you just kind of keep the research going, right? Crack the code, right? The Kubrick code. So
Yeah.
no, this was great, my friend. If there's anything else you want to add, unless otherwise we can, if you want to take a few minutes to talk about your stuff. But if there's any other issues you
I
want to
just
add
actually,
or whatnot, go for it.
I just released, my wife and I did a presentation. It's titled His Body, His Choice. It was at the Shattering the Illusion online conference event that my friends James and Joe put on, James Corner and Joe Murray. And it was an all day event. And my wife and I created this 70-minute video, and it breaks down the mental effects of circumcision, what it does to the psyche and the society, and why it causes a blindness, why the trauma creates a blindness and it perpetuates trauma to the next generation. We get into all of that, and we talk about the, how to help to heal and to get over this trauma in way, well, it's, you never really get over it, I guess, but it's still like, it's to confront it, to understand it, and to talk about it with others. It helps the practice to stop happening, because it is a satanic ritual. Circumcision is a modern day child sacrifice ritual, and it traumatizes babies. Yeah, here it is. That's Jennifer and our little baby, and we left him intact, and he never had to endure that because we were smart enough to not do it to him. It happened to me, but I would never do that to him. And because I confronted it and I was able to understand what it is and how it affected me, and I recognized it was trauma, and instead of denying it and not looking at it, I was able to hopefully grow a little bit, and we didn't inflict this onto our baby. And so we talk about all the effects of it, and we have some clips of, there she is right there, that's Jennifer Rose, and we have a little discussion, and we play some clips to describe, to show the audience examples of the mind control that people have, and how they're under the spell, and how this trauma affects their brains, and how it perpetuates. And so,
That's awesome,
and
man.
yeah, it's
Well,
really, it took a lot of effort. It's a wonderful, I'm very proud of it. And it's on Odyssey. It's on my Odyssey, Wake the Dead. If you look at Odyssey, you'll be able to download it from Odyssey. It's also on, there's a button, if you look at the three dots over on the right next to share, if you click that, there's download. You can click that download and you download it for yourself.
Boom, got
share it with others. Great. And that's why I posted it there. I also put it on YouTube. I want everybody to see it, but I direct people to the Odyssey so that they can download it and keep it and share it with others, because it's very important for us that the conversation happens. And so thanks for letting me talk about that.
Yeah.
Everybody can find that at my Odyssey channel, Wake the Dead. You can find, if you look up Wake the Dead at Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, any of those. You can find me at Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube. And you can also find me at onegreatworknetwork.com. I'm under the creator section, and I post all of my work there. And there's a donate button if people are so kind to donate to my family. And I also sell t-shirts. You can find that at storefrontier.com/wake the dead. There are many anarchist designs and fine art photography. And we even made a shirt to go along with that presentation, His Body, His Choice. And we priced it at the absolute, it's $16 for a regular shirt, and it's as low as it goes for a sweatshirt. It's like $20, 22 or something. We're not making any profit. We just want people to we want people to think about it. We want to get that message out there. So please check out the online store, storefrontier.com/wake the dead. And, check out my channel and check out my other stuff, Wake the Dead podcast. I'm always coming out with new shows. I'm always thinking about new things, and I have very interesting guests, and we get to the core of what really matters. And, I like to be part of the conversation. So thank you everybody for listening. And, I appreciate everybody's time and attention. This was a really long series of podcasts, and I appreciate that your interest has led you this far to the end of the third episode. Wow. Cheers to all of you.
Yeah, well, thanks to the listeners. We're going to definitely look into some more great stuff to get to. But thank you, Sean, for
You're very welcome.
So yeah, we'll keep you updated on stuff. But
great,
Sean, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon, my friend. We'll cook something.
You're very welcome, right? Jordan.
All right, later, brother.
Please. Cheers.
Hunter SS Biden.
Yeah. SS. Yeah, right.